We got some sleeper contenders entering week 8, and some of them I don't think you're even aware of. Take the Big 12, for example. So Oklahoma is the only undefeated team in the Big 12. But what's the assumption? The assumption is, all right, Texas has got one loss to Oklahoma, so they're a one-loss Big 12 team. They'll make it back to Dallas, and we'll see them play for a conference championship. OU, Texas, round 2, the end. But Texas is one of 5 one-loss teams in the Big 12. Do you realize what's happening out there right now? Do you realize Kansas State's got 2 losses? Only one of them is a conference loss. Now, they've still got to play Texas. They've got Avery Johnson heating up, maybe ready to redefine their season. That team, that Kansas State team's got real scalable potential, I think, because of what's happening at the quarterback position. Oklahoma State, guys, has 1 conference loss. Do you realize Oklahoma State is still in this thing? They've got OU coming in there in a few weeks. Now, you may say, oh, that sucks for them. No, it doesn't. That's how they define their season. That's how they make their season. They play, aside from Oklahoma, 4 of the bottom 5 teams in the Big 12, and they're at West Virginia this week. Speaking of West Virginia, guess how many conference losses they have? Uno. They got 1 conference loss. And they also face 4 of the 5 bottom teams in the Big 12, and they also play Oklahoma before the season's over. And we only have 1 conference loss. Whomst am I talking about? Iowa State. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Iowa State's 4-3. True enough. One of the losses is at Ohio, but we don't play in the MAC. One of the losses is to Iowa, but we don't play in the Big 10. And good for us for hanging 13 on them. Hardly anyone else has. Iowa State has already beaten Oklahoma State. They've lost to Oklahoma, got Oklahoma out of the way. The offense is, I'm going to say, improving to rapidly improving. And they got Texas at home second to last week of the regular season before they go to Kansas State. So our destiny, as far as I can tell, is still in our hands. There are 4 teams aside from Texas in the Big 12 that are still very much alive, and no one's talking about them. And maybe we've been guilty a little bit of that on this show, but no more, because that's what this Thursday has been dedicated to. In the SEC, LSU is the most glaring example to me of a team that's been written off, and you don't need to be writing them off yet. The model hadn't written them off. JP Poll's got them top 15. You can scoff at that all you want to, but they're not done yet. They've got 1 conference loss. They kind of control their own destiny. I'm not completely sure how the tiebreaker thing works. If they beat Bama, and then Bama's a 1 loss and LSU's a 1 loss, I don't know how that works. But I will say this. They played their best defensive game of the season last week, and they've got Army and then a bye, and then they round it out with Bama, Florida, and Texas A&M, 3 of the final 4 games. It's all there. It's still all there for LSU. Missouri and Florida are also right there. Missouri is a 1-loss team. Missouri has Georgia right after Georgia plays Florida. Missouri is off the week that Georgia plays Florida. So it couldn't be teed up any better. And there was a program out there. I cannot remember which one it was. Jesse, help me here. There was a college football show. They do a year-round thing. They don't do the off-season. And there was some dude, dresses kind of homeless, and he said Missouri was the sleeper team in the SEC this year and nationally too. I think that's what he said. We'll have stats and info and research get on that. Yeah, I know. I seem to recall he took a lot of flack for it. Whole lot of flack. Anyway, I digress. Missouri, very much alive. Florida is too. The difference is Florida has a ridiculous remaining schedule. Florida's got 1 conference loss, but they have, well, it's on the screen right here. Why don't I just look at that? They got Georgia coming up next weekend. Then they got Arkansas at home. And the reason I spotlight the Arkansas game is because it's sandwiched between Georgia and LSU. And they go to LSU and to Missouri back-to-back before finishing with Florida State. That is gross. Ugh. So technically, yeah, they are still alive. I don't know exactly how much damage they can do the rest of the way. Here's a good pop quiz for you. Paper pop quiz. Trademark that term, please. Paper pop quiz. I want you to do me a favor and name the undefeated teams in the ACC. Jeopardy music. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you get Florida State? Good. Did you get North Carolina? Most of you did. Good. How many of you got Duke? How many of you realize Duke is still undefeated? They play FSU this Saturday, undefeated in conference play, mind you. They play at FSU this Saturday. 2 of the 3 remaining undefeateds are playing this Saturday. Louisville and North Carolina are also on the future schedule for Duke. Riley Leonard looks like he's about to return. Can they afford another loss even, maybe, and still make the conference championship game? I don't know. But again, Mike Elko, one of the great stats out there right now, is he is 1.5 seasons in at Duke and still has not lost a game by more than 1 possession. At Duke, last but not least, Virginia Tech is still in this thing too. That one's out of left field. Virginia Tech's 3-4. How is this possible? Well, one of the losses was to Purdue. One of them was at Rutgers, and one of them was at Marshall, and none of those are conference games. Their one conference loss is at Florida State. They drubbed Wake last week, much to the chagrin of the Ramen Noodle Express. They beat Pitt a couple of weeks ago. Now they're on a bye week, and they've got Cuse, they got Louisville, Boston College, NC State, and Virginia. Where's the sure loss? There isn't one there. And while I'm at it, Oregon State, the Duke of the West, if you will, Oregon State still only got 1 conference loss out in the Pac-12. They're 6-1. They lost to Washington State. That's why a lot of folks wrote them off. But they still have the big boys. They still play Washington. They still play Oregon. So all of these teams that people are circling, Georgia, Oklahoma, Florida State, rightfully so. Let's not overlook the fact that there are a ton of one-loss teams right now that have been written off that should not be written off yet. There is so much football left to be played. This is week 8. We're not even close to November yet. And November is famously the longest month of the year. It's like 37 weeks long. So I'm excited to watch this because some dominoes are about to start falling, and some of the big dominoes, if and when they fall, will bring some of the second-tier dominoes back into the picture. And my whole point will be they never should have been out of the picture.